Tonight, we are going to discuss a topic entitled Heaven, our celestial home. Where is heaven? Although the Hebrews use this word to refer to the sky as being the place for heaven, the Bible uses the phrase heaven and earth to imply the whole universe. But no one really knows what heaven is. The Bible clearly teaches that heaven is the home of God. It is the home of Jesus Christ. And it is also the home of the angels. The Bible also advises us that for those who would be born again, those who would be called saints, the Bible declares unto us that it is the home, the future home of those who are considered to be future believers. All believers have a place in this location known as heaven. And so with that, heaven has a significant role for us. It is a place that God intends for his children to reside. It's a living place, a place to live. So we're going to explore our celestial home. Make sure that we are grounded on a few fundamental details about our new home. We know today, at this moment, we are in our earthly homes, not the heavenly home. We know the difference because the heavenly home was built differently. The home that we have here was built by man. The things that we see around us, all man-made. So what we have now is not our heavenly home. Webster defines heaven as being the firmament. Another definition that's provided is a spiritual state of everlasting communion with God. A spiritual state of everlasting communion with God. So let's learn a little bit about this place, our celestial home. It's important, if this is a place that we're going to eventually live in, it's important that we understand some things about it. Not that it's something that someone always told you, but you want to be able to know for yourself. So let's look at what the Bible says about our future home in heaven. Let's start in the book of Genesis. If you turn there with me, please. Now we know in the beginning, in Genesis 1 talks about the fact that God created the heavens and the earth. But we want to go to Genesis, the 28th chapter. In Genesis, the 28th chapter, let me have a reader at the 10th verse. We'll start our study there, recognizing that Genesis 1 talked about the fact that God created the earth, the physical place that man has existed on for years, and God created the heavens. In Genesis 28, it's going to give us a little bit more insight to this place called heaven, the celestial home. And we're going to see in Genesis 28 a view of what the celestial home is like through the vision that God allowed Jacob to see. Let me have a reader at Genesis 28, verse 10.
Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night because the sun was set, and he took of the stones of that place and put them for his pillows, and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it.
Okay, here is a message that Jacob received. And he received it. Did he go to sleep expecting that he was going to receive that message?
No.
No, he didn't. He didn't know that that message was going to be coming. He had no idea. And so since he had no idea, that meant for him to in his visions upon his head while he was asleep, he saw this thing. And this is how he was able to describe what he saw. He saw angels ascending and descending, but he saw a ladder that extended up to what he could describe as heaven. So here is a description of the location of this place known as heaven. We know from this vision that God gave unto him, God wanted him to know something about the world that he could not see. Thus, the Bible says that this ladder that he saw reached up. It was set up on the earth, and the Bible said that the top of it reached to heaven, which means it went up. And it bore witness to the fact that who lives in heaven?
That God lives in heaven.
That God
and
angels.
Right?
Exactly. That God and angels live in heaven. And that heaven is somewhere where? Is it beneath us or it is above us?
Above us.
It's above us.
In the sky.
In the sky, exactly. That it's somewhere above us in the sky. In fact, it bore witness to the fact that this location is somewhere beyond the clouds. Now, if you've been on an airplane, you know when you get beyond the clouds, there is another view of the earth beyond the clouds, isn't it? When you're in an airplane and the plane goes up in the sky, and while you're in the clouds, it looks cloudy. But when the airplane gets above the clouds, it's like almost another world above the clouds. But that is not where God is. The Bible records that heaven and earth. So the Bible refers to earth as being one location and heaven being a location above the what? Earth. So it's something above the earth. The earth is only a part of a part of God's creation. So this speaks to the idea that the heavens are out there where the celestial bodies are. As far as we know, it could be even beyond the celestial bodies. No man knows. But we do know it is not here on the earth where we are. Let's continue to look at this. Let's go over to Nehemiah. Nehemiah 9, verse 6.
Art Lord alone. Thou hast made heaven, the heavens of heavens, with all their hosts, the earth, and all things that are therein, the seas, and all that is therein, and thou preservest them all, and the hosts of heaven worship thee.
Okay. So here is another description of this place, of the celestial home. As Nehemiah was giving praise unto the Lord, he was giving a description of the celestial home known as heaven, as God allowed him to see it. It said, thou hast made heaven, the heaven of heavens, with all their host. So there's heaven, and then there's a heaven of heavens. So that could explain why the Hebrews may have looked up to the skies, the clouds, and acknowledged God as being in the heavens. Remember, he was over them when they were traveling out of Egypt as a cloud. So you could very well understand why they believe that God was in the heavens, right above the clouds. But in actuality, God was even He lives even further than that. The Bible declares unto us there's this place known as the heavens of heavens. So, or that there are different levels of heaven. So in this particular instance, he describes that the heavens of heavens, it says, in all their host. In other words, those who live there. The earth, again, being acknowledged as one of the creations, and all things that are in the sea. So he's acknowledging the vastness of God's greatness here in the book of Nehemiah. Let's fast forward to St. John in the New Testament. So now we've got some descriptions. We know that God in the beginning, in Genesis 1, created the heavens and the earth. And notice that the term heavens, and I just thought about this. As you go over to St. John 14 is where we're going to go to. I want you to hold your finger there on St. John 14. Let's go over to Genesis 1. And I just want you to see just quickly with me this expression, this word. He said, in the beginning, in Genesis 1:1, God created the heaven and the earth. And so the Bible declares unto us that there was a finite beginning, a specific beginning where the earth started. When the earth was started or became created, God created it, but also God created heaven. So heaven being something bigger than the earth, encompassing the earth, God started the heavens as well as the earth. So any references to anything above the earth is a part of what is considered to be the heavens. So you got space and you got those things that are beyond space as we know it. But we don't really know what's even beyond the things that we are able to see with a telescope. We don't know. We don't know how vast God's heavens are. That shows you how small a part we are of God's creation. But this celestial home is what the Bible continuously speaks about. A home for God, Jesus, the angels, and the believers. And let's see what St. John 14 says about this home for the believers. St. John 14, let's start at verse 1.
Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me.
Okay, so here, direction was given by Jesus Christ for the believer's heart not to be troubled. What kind of things can trouble a believer's heart?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Off job.
Okay.
Sickness.
Okay.
Bad grades.
Okay.
Unwanted pregnancy.
Okay.
Loss of home.
Okay.
You.
Okay.
Marriage, divorce.
Yes. Yes.
Children, husband, wife, family. Argument.
Yes. So Jesus, when he was giving this advice, he's giving this advice to the believers, to those who would believe his words, not to those who weren't prepared for them. And so he's saying, don't let your heart be troubled by any of the things that you just called out. Those things you just called out didn't just start happening in recent years. Those things have been happening for some time, haven't they? From generations past. They've just been happening in different forms, but they've been happening. And so what Jesus was encouraging the brethren to do is to not be too concerned or to take this world too seriously. Now, why is he encouraging them not to take this world too seriously? Because he wants them to recognize that God is the creator of everything, that God owns everything. And as such, he wants them to look with hope to God. And that's why he goes on to the second verse to give this additional insight and advice. Continue reading there.
In my Father's house are many mansions.
Pause for me right there, please. Where my Father lives, there are many mansions. Where my Father lives, there are many mansions. So who is he referring to?
God.
He's referring to God. So he's saying the place where my Father lives. Now, we just established that God lives in heaven. So the place where God lives, he said, is in heaven, the celestial home. See, the Bible gives us some clues about what we should expect when we get to heaven. There's a certain way of life, certain quality of life when we get to heaven. But we must first know, what that quality of life looks like. We know that it's not here on the earth. So we know not on the earth in its current state. So we know that God, where God is dwelling, there are mansions. Now, we have our own idea of what mansions are. In the world today, are mansions little? What is a mansion? In your own words, how would you describe a mansion on the earth today? Someone with a mansion. How would you describe their mansion?
Home, is it?
It's a home. Is it just a home?
So it's
large house with at least 15 or more bedrooms.
So it's
They have anywhere from 10 or more bathrooms. And it sits on a mostly a large, bigger land, but it's a very, very large house. It has a lot of rooms in it.
So typically it's a large home, isn't it? It's not like an average home, is it? When you think of a mansion in today's world, it's not an average home, is it?
no.
No, it's not. If it was an average home, then there would be no need to give it a name known as mansion. Yet, Jesus refers to the fact that in my Father's house are many mansions. Many mansions. So even then, the word mansion had a special meaning. Even then, it wasn't considered to be an average home. So Jesus was serious about the word and how he used it. It's considered to be a pretty large house. So, fundamentally, he's saying there are pretty large homes where my Father lives. They're pretty large homes. And look at what else he said. Continue reading, please. So he's giving us a description of this celestial home. There are mansions there. There are large homes there. So if you think about the average person today does not live in a mansion. Isn't that right?
Oh.
So therefore, that's a description of the celestial home that says that they will be living in a bigger place. The believers who would join God and the angels and Jesus Christ, they'll be living in a bigger place. Oh, praise be to God, from whom all blessings flow. It is our prayer at Clay Family Ministries that your life has been increased with the increase of God through this study. We appreciate and are thankful for your fellowship during this life skills study segment.